Hello.
Hey,
Hey.
so you sent me an article called,
Yeah.
I love the title of this. Can you, this is how men feel about smart, oh, sorry. This is how men feel around smart women, and it's totally disturbing.
Yes. Truly disturbing. Deeply, sadly
Truly,
disturbing.
yes, truly disturbing. Or the title could have been Yet Another Way That Men Are Wrong, and it's truly
It
disturbing.
really could have been. I knew when I saw the title that I was going to have to share it with you. Um, because, so what the article says is that men who value intelligence in women, who, if they're listing their, like their
Mhm.
qualities that they love in women, they value intelligence. If you actually put them in face to face with a woman who is smarter than them,
Mhm.
they begin very quickly to actually lose interest in her. So that intelligence is a quality that is only valuable
At a
inverse to
distance.
its proximity.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So,
Well,
yeah.
so there's so many things wrong with this article. I couldn't get the actual study. You had to belong to the
Oh, to the
academic
journal or
website, the
whatever.
journal.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Because I really wanted to see how
Their
closely
methods.
the
Yeah.
methods, the inclusion, how intelligent were these men, IQ wise, compared to the women? What kind of a gap was there?
I don't think it even matters because honestly, I think the very first flaw was that they made it gender based at
Yeah,
all.
right.
Because I think this is yet another thing that we all do,
I agree
and
with
that it
that.
isn't just about intelligence. I think it is any trait we value. The most of us. Now they did
Well,
touch on the article that
yeah,
what it does is it brings up an insecurity. That maybe I'm not as smart as I think I am if this woman is so, obviously able to blow me out of the water. But again, I don't think that's a gender thing.
and
The
right. Yeah,
the
I agree
comment I
with
made
that.
on another friend post was, I could have a crush on Christiane Amanpour and think, oh my gosh, it's so great how much she knows about international issues and she's so aware of everything. But you put me in a room with her and I'm going to find out real quick I'm an idiot. You
Maybe.
know, it's no, I trust me. But and it's the same thing, but on something that maybe I don't value as much, like say athletic prowess.
Well,
Like
let's not say value so much because, and I think they mentioned this in the article.
prioritize.
It's more how much it's a part of your identity,
Yes. Okay. I
right?
agree. How much you focus on that being part of you. Yes. If I'm the smart person, you can't also be the smart person.
Yeah, which is a weird
You
thing,
know,
right? It's because
it
it's
is a
like a
weird thing.
zero sum game in a
Right. You would think it would be yay another smart person.
right.
But it just like almost though, I mean, again, though, that it crosses gender lines, women are infamous for doing this with other women. I can be pretty, but if there's another pretty
Mm,
woman in the room,
you got
I'm
it. You get
instantly like there's a distance there.
and some women will work to you know lower
Yeah.
the women around them with
Right, to try to take
comments
everybody
or
else down.
criticism, and they like
Hmm.
yeah, or
Sure, and we
eliminate
see
them
it with
from the group
men.
or whatever.
Yeah, and we'll see it with men together in, maybe financial success. That I have to be the most financially successful or the most powerful
Hmm.
person in this room, and if somebody else in this room has power, I have to take it away from them.
Right, because they're a threat.
So, and maybe that's what it comes down to is just what form that power takes.
Yeah, very possible. But you know, here's when let's just focus on the intelligence because that's what the
Okay,
article is on.
okay,
And
focus.
here's something I've noticed about yeah. for we can do that for like 30 seconds.
Okay,
Focus.
your faith is inspiring me.
Let's see if we can hold it. Um, Here's the thing I've noticed about people's self-perception of intelligence, and that is that people who are clustered like at the top of the bell curve and down a little bit to the left on
Mhm.
actual intelligence
Yeah.
seem to perceive, I mean, not everybody, but I've noticed this trait commonly amongst that uh, segment, is they think they're super smart and they're not.
Okay, I may be revealing which side of the bell curve I fall on, but would the left side be the slightly lower?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, well,
And for some reason, they just have this concept that they're super smart. They're like they're the smartest
well,
people, and they're really, really not. They're super,
isn't
super average.
intelligent isn't intelligence at some point, don't the lines for intelligence and self-awareness intersect?
Possibly.
And I would imagine that maybe that intersection is on the right-hand side of the bell curve.
That's
Um,
I just from without any studies or anything, but just
sure.
through personal experience, I would definitely say that seems to be true.
But by that same token, then as you go higher on the intelligence line, you again get further away from the self-awareness. Um,
Yeah, yeah. There's
but
there's a sweet spot for that, for
yeah,
sure.
exactly.
I mean, I've I've
But
I've
yeah,
worked with actual literal geniuses who
sure.
can barely dress themselves,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
And I've
man, I'm glad I am not that far down the
smart.
the slope. I don't want to be
Yeah.
that smart.
Yeah. So, and I think there's like it's very easy for me to say, I feel like I'm a pretty bright person and
Yeah,
I have um, certain certain intelligences. I'm also a big believer in the theory of multiple intelligences,
sure.
but I have certain intelligences that make me appear to be bright in a way that is valuable to society. So, but I also know that there are so many people who are way above me in
Well, that's
intelligence.
part, and that's part of what that awareness, self-awareness that comes in from being on the right-hand
Yeah,
slope of the bell curve is that
but only
you
just.
start, yeah, that you that's when you start to go, shit, there's a lot of people who know a lot of shit, and
Yeah,
I don't even know all the shit that I don't know, but I know that it's out
right.
there, right?
And maybe there's also a certain level of, I would say that also curiosity. If we look at
Ah,
the
yeah, yeah.
the line of curiosity and how it intersects with intelligence and self-awareness, that there's probably a sweet spot there too. I would say people
Hmm.
perhaps on the left-hand side of the bell curve are curious in different ways or about different things. Um, or
Yeah.
I don't want to characterize, but
Why not?
I think that there's because we'll get letters. Um,
Ooh, that'd be cool. A letter. Look, we have a letter.
well, then you go ahead and piss somebody off, honey.
I'm really good at that.
You are. I'll just, yeah, talk about women for 5 minutes. I'll let you go.
So,
um,
so
yeah,
do you think that women tend to feel less threatened by smarter men than a man would feel about a
I
smarter woman?
think I think that whether it is due to the societal expectation that men will be more intelligent than women,
Hmm.
or whether that is, yeah, I don't know, because I can't say it's really a common experience for all women. There are plenty of women who spend their time surrounded by men who they know are not as intelligent as they are.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think it is less threatening for us to be around a smarter man than it is for a man to be around a smarter woman. That's one of the other things that I had to say about that study is I don't deny that it is probably true of men, But I am curious to know if it is more true of men than it is of women. And I
Right.
suspect it might be, but probably not by much.
Mhm. Mhm. So, do you often do you remember any actual experiences of being around uh, smarter people and how you felt? Is anybody smarter than you? I guess that's what I'm really asking.
What a loaded question. Yeah, I've been around plenty of people who are smarter than me. Yeah, sure. In
And
many different ways.
sure. And how and do you feel intimidated in those
Uh,
circumstances? And
I am aware that I am out of my depth and that I have a choice of how to handle it.
mm,
I would say I absolutely used to feel intimidated, yeah, but I'm in my 40s and
right.
I've worked really hard to sort of own my shit and be able to handle situations like that and not lose my power. So yes, I have been intimidated, but
And how do you now deal with it?
by openly saying, wow, you know a lot more about that than I do. Let me ask you a question that I
There
have
you
from my
go.
perspective.
This is your curiosity. You play the
Yeah.
curiosity card
Oh, see, I'm
because
super curious. Like that
right.
has got my ass in more cracks in my life, but that I sat there happily. I really, yeah, I am super curious. I cannot go 30 seconds without wondering, well, now why? How come?
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I just
So,
admit I don't know anything and I ask a question. That's why on the little survey you posted today, my pet peeve is
yeah.
people who want to argue with me about topics about which they know nothing. Just shut up and admit you don't know anything and ask a question, learn more, have a discourse about it instead of feeling like you have to be the smartest person in the room.
Yeah. So that is yeah, there are people and I have, siblings like this. They have to be right.
Yeah.
They have to be right. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. They have to be right.
I might
And
have a family member or two who's shades of that.
and I feel fortunate that I don't have a ton of that. And partly I think it's because of my birth order,
Yeah.
being number 6 of 7, and and
Nobody
sitting.
expected you to be right.
Nobody expected me to be right, and everybody but my little brother was older than me, and I'd sit at the corner at the dinner table and watch all this discussion going on. And my dad was really good about managing dinner time talk, and you could debate. Anybody could debate any point, but you couldn't get personal. You couldn't attack, and you had to make
Right.
valid points. You couldn't just say
Yeah.
because I think so, because I feel so, or
Yeah.
so he was
I
really
do the same
cool
with my
referee.
kids. I'm like, that's fine, make that statement, but explain what led you to it.
Right. Yeah, yeah. And so I just observed, really,
Yeah.
for years and years and years, just observed. And so I'd say, well, there's that point and there's that point, and I, realized um, there are different ways to look at things,
Yeah. And that's good you had your father there to do that for you because with a narcissist mother, if
right?
you don't have somebody else standing up, I had a narcissist father who was to look at him, everybody thought he was a teddy bear, but he ruled the house. And my mom was not somebody who was going to um, uh,
Stand up to him.
counteract counteract his point of
Yeah.
view and say, well, there's another way of looking at things,
Hmm.
because there really wasn't in our house. It was his way. Um, so it you had that example, whereas for me growing up, it was really like, okay, so this is the view I now have to mold myself into. And what changed things for me, as you were talking about it, I really realized was being on internet parenting groups because mamas are vicious. Oh my God! I'll walk into an internet chat room, sit down, say vaccinate or don't vaccinate,
Oh, Jesus.
circumcise or don't circumcise, breast or bottle,
Yeah.
or not even breast or bottle, breast bottle formula. Like there's so much stuff that you just you can step your feet in some landmines,
Hmm.
um, and learning to get into those discussions and not lose half my day to some person on the internet who disagreed with me, and to be able to just say, you know what, I had never considered it from that point of view. It sounds like you are doing what is right for you and your child. Best of luck. I'm going to go hang with my baby now. And just to be able to walk away and know in myself that I am making the right choice for me and she is making the right choice for her, and that's okay. And I don't need to win this.
The funniest,
you know,
the funniest example of that I've ever seen was in the movie Bowfinger. Have you seen Bowfinger with
I have,
Steve
and I want to watch
Martin?
it again, but it's been years. Yes, Eddie
Yes,
Murphy and
Eddie
Steve Martin. And
and Heather Graham, right?
oh, yes, I forgot about her.
Yeah. I didn't.
Funny how that works.
Amazing. So
Yeah.
so she plays this supposed ingenue, literally right off the
Mhm.
bus, trying to get this part in the movie, and she gets it, and she starts sleeping her way up the chain of command, trying to get her things her way, more
Right.
lines, more scenes, all this kind of stuff. And Steve Martin's the director producer,
Yeah.
and so she reaches him, and she's sleeping with him, and
Can
then
I just say,
yeah,
I'm sorry to interrupt. Has
what?
Steve Martin been accused of sexual harassment yet?
I I have not heard anything. I'd be
Okay, that
surprised.
that one's gonna bother me. That if that, because he's one of my favorites,
Yeah.
and I'm
He
that
doesn't
that
seem
will.
like that kind of guy, does he?
He doesn't. He has these little cards. I think I've told you this maybe before. He has these little cards that he used to give out when people would meet him on the street. And he would be like, here you go, and hand it to him. And it says, this card is proof that you have met Steve Martin and you felt him to be charming and friendly or something like that. And he would just walk away.
That sounds so much
Yes,
like him.
yes.
I read his book,
Anyway,
by the way, which I found
which
fascinating.
one?
His
He's written a
autobiography.
ton of books.
His
Oh,
auto.
oh, okay. His book about him.
I think it was called Born Standing Up or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
Anyway, oh wait, so then,
Haha, I
so
distracted you.
it was good, but I'm pulling this back. So Heather Graham sleeps with Steve Martin for a while, and then she finds out that Eddie Murphy's the brother of the super famous movie star, so she starts sleeping with him. And then
Mhm.
and Steve Martin finds out about it, and he confronts her and says, you know, he gets mad at her. And she goes, "Why are you mad?" He says, "'Cause you're sleeping with Jeff." And she says, "So?" And he goes, I never thought of it that way. See you tonight? Okay.
Why is this a problem?
Right. And that's that, seeing things from a new perspective.
Well, okay, and so this segues though beautifully into, did you post the article about platonic touch
I
and
haven't yet.
okay, so the pressure, but you showed it to me or
Yeah,
whatever,
yes.
the the pressure that is put on women to be the source of intimacy, because like, from, let's go with Steve Martin's character's perspective in that movie,
Hmm.
that was his source. She was his source. She wasn't supposed to share that with anybody.
Right.
And if that's all you're getting is that. So the article that you sent is something that I think a lot about, because I have two boys who are 15 and 13, and it talks about how the lack of platonic touch is destroying our men.
Yeah.
um because you guys can't, like, with women. I mean, I'm not going to spend time cuddled up on the couch with my best friend watching a movie, but it's always been accepted that, like, if I went to prom as a teenage girl and I wanted to dance with one of my female friends,
Hmm.
that was fine.
Right.
Male friends couldn't do that without, at best,
Yeah.
some serious side eye, and at
Right.
worst getting their asses kicked.
Exactly.
um so there's there's the homophobia, but then there's also the line in the article that broke my heart was talking about how young boys, at some point, usually around puberty, they
Hmm.
sort of get cut off
Yep.
from platonic touch or non-demanding touch, non-sexual touch. Um, and their choice becomes what they learn from that is that you better get a girlfriend or say
Yeah.
goodbye
To be in
to,
touch.
yeah, to being touched. And
Yeah.
it's horrible. Like I've read this stuff
And I,
over the years.
and just, because I know that at least currently a lot of the people who will listen to this are women.
Yeah,
The extent to which men are isolated from touch is
starved. Yeah,
unbelievable. That
really.
as a single man, you can literally go months
Yeah,
without being touched by another human being
yeah.
at
Or
all.
more than a quick hug,
Right.
you know. Yeah.
In the
Um.
old show Frasier, you remember Frasier?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So one of the early episodes, Niles and Frasier are talking, and he's complaining about this very thing. Um, and he goes, "It's so bad. I've started paying women to touch me." And Frasier gets all upset, and he goes, "No, I mean like manicures." And
I got pedicure the other day. Okay, so here's the
and
because
that's
I
and that's
am
no joke, actually.
no.
I've gotten massages just for that.
Yeah. Do you know it was a kind of a sad little moment for me when I got a massage last month or earlier this month. And I realized as I was getting the massage, and it was from this gentleman who's a wonderful practitioner, but I was like, oh my God, this is the most intimate touch I have had in months.
Yeah.
And okay, but before I forget, what I wanted to go back to though is okay. So how do we contrast this with the um, that unexplained thing? Because I also posted something on my personal Facebook about men and how they misread signals and like the
Oh yeah.
explicitness that
Yeah, yeah.
women need to come up with. So I don't know if everybody knows this, but you and I met in January because I came out to Tacoma to visit
Right.
a girlfriend of mine, and you and I had lunch, and then we went. Where did we go? Point Defiance.
Yes, walked
Is
on
that
the
okay?
gravel beach
Yeah,
in your boots.
ruined my boots, ruined them. Like I had to Pretty Woman Sharpie the heels of my boots. It's pretty pathetic. Um, but so I told you after I came back when we were on the phone that when we were walking along, like I kind of wanted to like hold your hand, and you and I are just friends. Like
Yeah.
we've set our boundaries, and it's very clear we are only friends. But because I really do just adore you, like I wanted to hold your hand.
Oh,
But yeah,
but
but you said at the time, but I was worried that if I did that, you would think that it was, more than it was. And you were like, oh yeah, I would have.
did I say?
Because to a
But
man, yes,
but
you said that.
okay.
You said
Eh,
that to a man,
yeah.
like any touch is like, oh, she touched me.
But
So
so let me with, almost a whole year's more wisdom
yes.
say that, because of the nature of our relationship, it would have
Hmm.
been if you said, "Hey, I just need to hold your hand for a little bit."
Yeah,
I totally would have gotten that and been, happy to do that and
yeah,
enjoyed it myself and not be
yeah,
able, because we know where our boundaries are and
yeah.
that wouldn't be, but just to reach out and grab my hand, that would have been, I would have been wondering what does this mean?
Right.
So,
So you need the explicitness,
yeah,
but I do think most men are okay with those boundaries once they're set. But okay, so now let me fast forward to I hope to take another trip out to visit my friend
don't you
and
dare hold
friends.
my hand. Fuck.
I'm not just going to hold your hand.
Oh, oh yeah.
Not just going to hold your hand. I want to watch a movie with you, and I would like to be able to lean over on the couch and like just lean on you.
Sure.
And and yeah, so like I'm totally fine with that. But there is also a little part of me, and please don't be insulted, that feels like I would have to explicitly say beforehand, if you make a grab for my tit, I'm going to elbow you in the gut. Like
But I wouldn't
Just
do
so
that.
you I know you wouldn't, but that way, like, not only are the boundaries clear, but the consequences as well. Like, but at the same time, you've known me for long enough to know I don't put up with that shit.
Right.
And if I wanted you to grab my breast, I would put your hand there. So,
Well, but you
like,
see, I'm gentleman enough that to always precede booby grabbing
sure.
with a kiss. So there's
I thought you were going to say asking permission, but no, I
no.
just
Well,
cover your mouth.
that kind of is. You know, if you're making out, then you can
Yes.
try to see if other bases are available.
Okay, now see, that's an interesting one because in that thing I posted about consent, there was also this whole,
Oh
and
God.
it's a back and forth for me about, like, you can't just assume that you can try for those other bases
No,
because what if that,
it's not an
no,
assumption,
well,
right?
not an assumption that they're going to be open, but that you could try.
Well, you got to
I
be.
mean, if you
How else
are making out with
you
somebody and
gonna sign a contract?
well, and that's what I'm saying. Like, where is that line between I want things to be able to be organic and don't assume that you can put your hand down my pants just because you've had it on my breast? You know,
Well,
like,
yeah. Well, and
and why is it
one
up
of
to
the
me to say stop? I don't want you to do that when maybe I'm also concerned about ruining the mood. But it would maybe ruin the mood just as much to have a man. Actually, I know that it would because I've had this experience. To have a man or either person at every step say, "Is this okay? Is this
right,
okay?"
right.
So, like, it's
So one
difficult.
of the common
Women
terms
is hard.
being banned, being used in all of this sexual harassment stuff that's coming out now is
Hmm.
unwanted sexual advances. And my contention is, how are you going to find out if they're unwanted if you don't make advances?
Right? And I do agree with what I've seen lately saying that,
I
what's
mean,
going to happen.
if you get a no and you keep going, that fine. Oh, I get that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're being a creep.
Right.
But I do agree with what I've seen, which is the thought that, what's going to happen is that men are going to back off and
Yeah.
women are going to have to step up.
Yeah.
We are going to have to say, I would like to go out on a date with you. We are not going to be able to leave it up to flirting and stuff. But I also, I saw an article or somebody said something about, look back at Anita Hill, the whole Anita Hill scandal that happened when I was in high school, and talking about how it was used against her, that she had worked with Clarence Thomas again, and it was like, why is the onus on women to have to be the ones to
To what?
blast their boundaries, to put it so out there that we then get labeled as being,
Because women control
ball
access to
busters.
sex. So they
Right, but
are
in the
the ones that
professional
set the ban.
workplace,
Oh, well,
but
in
the
the
professional
workplace.
workplace shouldn't
No,
have anything to
no,
do with sex.
no, no. I agree with
So
you
that's
completely.
yeah, yeah. So the lines get blurred, but it also is a challenge when I see stories. Now I have to say I have only seen the very earliest stories on Garrison Keillor,
Hmm.
um, and seeing that reportedly from his point of view, I have not seen the woman's report. That what he said happened was that he accidentally touched her back because she had like an open back shirt on, and that she recoiled, and he immediately apologized, and he even apologized in writing later in an
Yeah, I
email, and
read
that
that.
she said think nothing of it. And I
And then he
wonder
gets
how much
sued.
of, and then he gets sued. And I wonder how much of that think nothing of it was her trying to protect herself professionally and not make a big deal out of something because she didn't want to lose out professionally,
Well,
and how
that
much
might
of it
be.
is something right. And
But
because there's a part
men
of me that wants
being
to
the
hold her
literal
to that,
creatures that we are, if you
but we're
say
all creatures.
no, but I'm saying if you tell a man
Yeah.
no, it's
Oh yeah.
okay, we think well, then it's
It's
okay.
okay.
There's not
Right.
a problem.
Right.
We're not
Yeah.
thinking that that's a cover.
Sure. Yeah, and that is, I think that is
Women
the
are
challenge.
deceiving little creatures.
Well, but again, that same perspective of women have to evaluate in this situation. Am I safer being honest with this man, or am I safer
Mm-hmm.
lying so that he can save face and I can get away?
Right.
And
Yeah.
that getaway could be in the next 5 minutes, or that getaway could be in the next year professionally.
Right. Or both.
you know? Right. So it's not always a question of why wasn't she honest. Sometimes it's a question of why couldn't she be honest? Why didn't she feel safe to be honest?
To somebody.
Right.
To
Yeah.
somebody.
And to somebody with power.
Right.
Because you see a lot of these cases now where they're going back and corroborating and saying, well, yes, she told me about it when it happened 20 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
but she didn't tell anybody with power because
Right.
nobody with power was she had no faith that anybody with power was going to be on her side. So that's where it comes
Are
in
you
that
aware
men who
that in a company, a sexual harassment complaint within a company, a man and a woman, let's say, no, let's say specifically a man and a woman, and the woman
mhm,
files a complaint against the man,
mhm,
and it's all he said, she said.
mhm.
Who gets fired?
Well, generally now the man,
Yes.
but that
No.
was not
You,
always the case.
no, I'm talking about, this decade, the past 20 years even. The men
I
get
don't
the
know that we can go back that far.
well,
I
okay, fine.
really don't think we can.
The current
The last
the current
10 years,
climate, okay, the current
sure.
climate is the man gets fired. No
Yeah,
matter, and you know why? It's
because
it's
that's the one
economics.
that's socially justifiable.
No, it's not even that. It's economics. Women
Well,
are
yeah, I mean, they're
far more likely to sue.
yeah, well, and women control a lot of spending power as well. And with when I guess when I mean socially acceptable, um, it's that with our social media now, with the way small events can get blown into huge, um, cornerstones and become test cases,
Hmm.
it's much easier for a company to have huge losses if they don't handle something the way the current climate demands. So yes, I would agree that right now men get fired. However, I also look at cases of the high school in Michigan where a um, teenage boy was convicted of more than 30 counts of violence, rape, sexual aggression against girls as young as 12,
Jesus.
and he got 45 days in a juvenile facility,
What?
no mental health treatment,
What?
and was then released to his mother's care and is going to be back in school with his victims.
What the fuck? That's not
Right.
right.
No, absolutely not. So like I always have, these ways where it's like, yeah, I see what you're saying about the ways that we are unfair to men. I totally do. I have a great deal of empathy, but I also see the ways in which women are not protected. And when you say women control access to sex, I don't dispute that, but men control access to every fucking thing else.
Yeah, and women have accessed all of that through sex. They
Why
they
should it be that way?
I'm
That
not
makes it
saying it's right. I'm saying that is how it has worked since people stood on two legs.
so, but then it sounds like what you're saying is women have to give up their power over sex in order for men to give up their power over
No, no,
finances
I'm not
and
saying
other
that at all.
institutions.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that
So doesn't it
historically,
have to begin with the people in power?
um, no, no, I don't think so.
I mean, I guess what I'm looking
Well,
at is like,
which power?
you see
Which
this
power?
climate of women demanding accountability, and it probably going too far. The pendulum is swinging too far against men. We are not being fair. I agree with that. But I also see how that's the way it's always been in history.
Oh,
If you want to talk about the way it's
yeah,
always been,
no,
that we
I
always have to
totally
swing
agree.
too far to the other side and then come
Totally,
back.
I completely agree with that. but so women have in society, uh, they use they get what they want through sex. That's how it has worked throughout history. I'm not saying it's right, and I'm not saying it isn't changing. I think maybe it is. But you see stuff and it's all fun and games. Ha ha ha, he's in the doghouse. If you don't do what I want, you got to sleep on the couch.
Right.
I
Oh,
mean,
we
what is
totally,
that?
and I would even go so far as to say it's not even just sex; it's intimacy,
Yeah.
which is in a way a bigger
And
deal
and
than
that's
sex.
that's that goes back to what we're talking about. Cutting him off
Hmm.
from touch.
Yeah, from
That's
that intimacy that because of the way we have screwed things up, men equate with sexuality and sex.
well, it's not. I don't know that it's
And
is.
I mean,
I don't
not
know
even
that
equate with, but like
no.
that's the easiest way for you to get it, the most acceptable way to you for you to get the intimacy.
Yeah. Well, and I think we're wired differently, men and women, for that. That I think men do they get that intimacy actually, yeah, from sex, and women get it from like before and after as much as anything,
I
right?
don't dispute that. I certainly I
And it
don't
doesn't mean
know
we're
how much.
wrong. We're just wired for
Well,
that.
and I don't know how much of that is wired, how much is nature
Maybe.
and how much is nurture. Um, because there are plenty of men who will tell you that, for whatever reason, they can't have sex, but they
Hmm.
still have intimacy.
Yeah, yeah,
So
totally.
it, but I
And
think
I happen
that
to be one
socially
that
we've
is,
made it.
I personally I'm one who finds uh physical touch, you know, non-demanding touch,
Yeah,
you know, essential. I know
yeah,
that, just little
yeah,
stuff,
hmm,
just hooking little fingers while you're sitting
yeah.
next
Oh,
to each other, just
absolutely.
something like that, or walking past and brushing your hand across their shoulders or
Yeah.
something, that kind of thing.
Or even just having somebody who isn't, afraid to reach out and rub your back or something. Just,
Yeah,
yeah, those little things.
all those I find that, uh, yeah, I miss that.
So, but again, so you are present in a society where you are only really encouraged to seek that from women.
Yep.
So, what would change? What would change if men made it okay for them to have I mean, the goofy term is bromance, but what if it was okay for you to have the sort of friendship with men that that you could sit next to each other on the couch and, rub each other's back if one of you was feeling bummed out and, that kind of stuff. Like,
I yeah,
would that change the dynamic?
I have friends that I would be comfortable doing that with.
Okay, but
Like
as a
if they
society,
were, like really down in the dumps, I'd, kind of
yeah, but so if as a society, if
not the
the onus
thigh
was
though.
no
No, that
longer
wouldn't work.
well, but if the onus was no longer on women to provide all that intimacy, and there was no longer this latent and sometimes not so latent, because this comes up a lot with you, anger at women
Ah,
for what is seen as a withholding of intimacy, what would change? Like
you
if
say
women had their
if I could
if
if I
women
got touch
if men had
from
the
men,
power of intimacy, yeah, if men had the power of intimacy that wasn't reliant on women, and women had the power of financial freedom and freedom within the law and protection and everything that men have, would that change things? I mean, is the problem, I don't want to lay blame, but is the problem fundamentally one of our most basic human needs? Women need shelter
yep,
that
and
men are
security.
perhaps more able to provide, and men need intimacy that perhaps women are more able to provide. What would change if we weren't reliant on each other for that? Would that be better, or would that actually be worse and completely screw up our whole society?
It probably would be better, but we've got you know, we've been working on that particular
Because I
problem
think we
for
can whip
like
this out in like 5 years, man, if we work really
you think
hard.
so? You think so? We can overcome a gazillion years of evolution, like next week.
I
That's
said
doable,
5 year
right?
plan. Don't be ridiculous.
Okay, 5 years, which isn't even a blink of an eye in
Right?
terms of how long humans have existed.
I know. But
There's a lot of stuff that's in our genes that you can't just you know hold a march or a rally
right.
and change that shit.
Yeah.
It
But
takes
if
I
there
mean
are
it
people who
takes
are
it takes
saying,
it takes a very concerted effort, and starting you can't yeah it's a big
one
it's a
might
big
say it
problem.
takes an evolution instead of a
Yeah,
revolution.
might.
But so, shit, I lost my question.
Oh, it look on the under the sofa.
Look under the bed. Probably put it in my other pants.
In
Oh
your
well.
other brain.
Mm-hmm. If I had another brain, Lord. Um, no, but it was, fuck, what was it? Shit, pick another topic. I lost it.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so let's circle this back and say that the people that are most likely to be able to make like real-time changes in how they relate to the other gender, they
Are the
are,
people who are curious and self-aware and
yeah,
intelligent?
yeah, exactly.
Yay us. All the rest of them are
And
screwed.
that's a pretty small sliver of society, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
I mean, I have had to accept, especially over the last year, that really there are a lot of people, and not through no fault of their own, and not that it's even a bad thing, who are really just trying to get from birth to death with as little pain and drama and
yeah,
difficulty as possible, and
right.
that's not wrong. Um,
Oh, come
but
on. Yeah, it
yeah,
is.
I feel like we could what?
It's wrong. It's so wrong.
Well, it may not be helping to evolve the species, but can't everybody take on that kind of weight on their psyches like we
Ah,
do? I can fit the weight of the world. The whole species evolution is up to me.
I saw a meme. I don't know why that reminded me of this meme. And it shows like a bathroom scale and these 2 feet on the bathroom scale, and that's like all you can see. And it says, I can still fit into the same anxieties I had in high school.
I can't. Mine have grown so much. Those little podunk anxieties, please.
Right?
Little baby anxieties. Hey,
Yeah.
now we got the big stuff.
Training bra
I
anxiety.
so, I was about to say, I think anybody who's had kids has, automatically your anxiety ramps up. But I'm not entirely sure that's true. Because
Not
kids, in a way,
not
you can go
not for
either way with
me.
it.
Not
Yeah,
too
no,
much.
I mean, not really for me either. For me, like for the first 5 years. And then I realized I wasn't in control. Because I
Ah,
think
yeah.
that's really what screws us up is the
Thinking you
parents
can
who think,
control.
yeah, that you're in control of these other humans, and you're not.
You're not.
You're so not. They're their own
Not
little
not
humans,
not
and
from the time that they can move, really.
no, yeah.
I mean, you
I
can
mean, and
physically
even
say,
then,
"Here, we're moving you over there," but that's
hmm
the only control you have,
and it might not be worth your while.
right?
But yeah, I think at a certain point when you release that control and you realize that all you can do is, I guess, evolve yourself, and
You can guide them. You can try
yeah,
to direct them and instruct them. I mean, these are once you realize that what you're dealing with is an unformed person. They're not children. they're people
Yeah.
who don't know how to be people yet.
I read a wonderful book. We follow this rare educational philosophy called unschooling, where our kids don't go to school and they learn kind of what they want to learn, because the attitude is that they will learn what they need to learn. Like as they need it, they'll figure it out.
Hmm.
And the idea being that yeah, they already are their own humans and they have their own
Yep.
motivations, and
Yep.
there's no reason for us to assume that what we need is what they need. And usually they'll tell us if we just shut the hell up and listen. But
Hmm.
even so,
You know,
it's what?
um, I think you hit on something in this whole discussion, and how much of these issues that we've been discussing come down to control.
Yeah, power and control. Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
control is power.
Yes.
The
Yeah. Yeah.
and so many people, and it's not always, the dynamic that the man controls the woman. A lot of, but women in
But it's
relationships are
comfortable there.
women
That's
are
where we've
very
been
often,
comfortable for hundreds of years.
yeah, women are very often very domineering over men, and controlling as well. So I'll just say that. But um,
And again, see, I would object to that phrasing, that terminology on both sides, because I think that it's for hundreds of years, men have been in control of everything except the intimacy. And women have been in control of that intimacy, and because it is such a fundamental need, from your perspective, it's something that you don't get unless the woman allows it. But from our perspective, what about that safety and security of,
hmm
a roof over our heads
right.
and money that we can meet our necessities with? When those things are withheld, it's just as damaging
I
to a woman
I
as when
totally I
something is
totally
withheld
believe
for a
that.
man.
I totally believe that.
So, so isn't it? I mean, when you use the words like domineering and manipulative and controlling and stuff like that, it's to me, it's just a question of all of us trying to survive. We're all trying to get our needs met. And if the most efficient way for a woman to get her need for shelter and security met is to say, well, come over here, big boy, and have some intimacy after you put the roof over my head. And the
Hmm.
most efficient way for a man to get that intimacy is to say, hey, come over here, baby, and give me some intimacy. I'll put a roof over your head. Then
Right.
why would we not, as intelligent beings trying to expend the least amount of energy to get our needs met, do that?
Well, because people don't just come out and say that, and you're really suspect if you do.
Well, it's not very
Truly.
romantic either. I think part
Well,
of it is
true.
also that we want to have in the interchange between men and women is what I'm speaking of, because that's been the primary mode for so long. We That's just the expectation, and so it's playing into it rather than coming out and saying bluntly, you know, this isn't very romantic, but you look like you'd do a good job of putting a roof over my head and probably not beat me or, withhold money from me.
Uh-huh.
So I'll be really nice to you and cook you food and make you feel loved if you will take care of me in the ways that feel good. But then what happens when a woman wants intimacy and a man doesn't have the capability to provide that security? How many marriages fall apart because he lost his job and she was so strained by that she no longer had intimacy to offer? Or she couldn't offer intimacy anymore because she
She's
got sick or there was
insecure.
some other crisis.
She
And
if she feels if she doesn't feel safe, it's really hard to give up that intimacy, isn't it?
it really is. And if
Yeah.
part of the security is not just financial and material, but needing the
Hmm.
emotional safety as well,
Absolutely. And if
then you're screwed because men aren't socialized to give that. They've been expecting it from women all this time.
gentlemen, any men who happen to listen to this, take this lesson to heart, and it will improve your lives immeasurably. The make the women feel safe at all times.
Now,
The end.
how do you do that?
In so
You,
many ways. So many ways.
but how do you counteract making, so, okay, you and I are just friends, but if I knew that you had a view that women were manipulative and domineering and that you assumed that there would be a withholding of intimacy, then how am I to feel comfortable being angry at you and legitimately not wanting to be intimate with you if I know that by virtue of me being maybe even righteously angry at something you did, you're going to see that as a manipulation?
No, not at all. Uh, so
Some
first of
men
all,
do.
in my personal case, you know,
Hmm.
I'm not going to be around a woman who's domineering and manipulative to that extent.
But you just said that women are.
Not, yeah, but most the women that that I really like, they're capable of, um, making it seem like they aren't.
You kill me.
No,
So they keep it on the down low,
right.
and they're super manipulative, and they do it so well that you don't even know they're doing it.
Exactly right. And then I'm good.
Wait, you just said you wanted us to be overt, and now you're saying don't be overt.
No,
You say
I'm.
that women are complicated and that we talk out of both sides of our mouth. Once
I'm
again, crosses
all I'm
borderlines,
doing.
my
All I'm
friend.
saying is that if you're gonna be manipulative, be good at it.
If you can't be manipulative, well, don't be manipulative at all. Okay.
Exactly.
So it's like
Don't be an amateur.
new age, new age candy.
We're gonna get letters.
Well, you can answer them all because you wanted them.
um, no, I honestly, because referencing back to that boring NPR guy, uh,
Garrison Keelan.
that guy, and how you said she didn't feel safe in being honest, right?
Maybe. Sure.
Potentially, yes, potentially.
Yeah, sure.
Um,
Knowing what I know of victims, but not having read her particular story, yes.
right. Um, so shit, I lost my train of thought on that. There was a connection
Ah,
that
yeah.
that there's women, in order to feel safe, are often um indirect. Let's just call it that.
Yes. Yeah. Depending on your evaluation of the circumstances and
Uh-huh.
your history,
Yeah,
I'm going to be way more skittish than other women who don't have the experiences I have.
sure.
But as a consequence, in some situations I'm going to be more blunt, and in some situations I'm just going to say bye as quickly as I can and get the hell out of there, and I'm not responsible for their feelings. In any case, I'm not responsible for their feelings.
That's yes, exactly right. So what you want to have, though, you want what in a relationship, in a
Yes.
healthy relationship, you want to be able to let go of all that and
Yes.
be feel, and both parts, men and women, feel safe in being open on anything.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's the ideal,
Mhm.
to where you the and so the women can, you know, you got to be, I mean, you got to be able to say what you want and what you need and what you feel, and ask for that shit
Well, and
directly.
it comes back to also it takes time and it takes open
Yes,
conversation. You and I have
and
had
a ton of trust that you have
yes.
to build up over time. I totally agree with that.
And it makes a difference the reaction. So again, for men who might be listening, like you and I have had times where I have had to say, that's not okay with me.
What?
And yeah,
I don't remember any of
and
that.
well, I'll remind you after we get off the air. but
Oh yeah, right.
but but the sense where like I was able to say that and your response was, oh, okay, I completely respect that. I'll remember it. I mean, now I know that's not true, but that you but that your response, you didn't get angry, you didn't get defensive. I had no reason to feel unsafe at any point with telling you that's not okay with me. Now, you're across the country and there's only so much you could do, but even in that case, I mean, honestly, on the internet these days, you still have to be careful because you never
Right,
know who could dox you. Um,
right.
but
Plus, there was
so
that
so,
woman who drove from Texas to Florida in Depends.
whew, yeah, and that
So
takes some dedication. I've worn Depends after childbirth, and them things are hot and wrinkly, and they
they
make
can't
noise
be.
when you walk. So she was
Oh man,
committed.
needed to
But
be.
no, so yeah, it might have been. But that makes a difference. So when somebody approaches you and says, "I'm not comfortable with this," if your response to that is to get all up in your ego and say, "Well, I didn't mean, and I didn't, I wasn't trying to, and you just took it wrong,"
Mm,
and instead their response is, "Oh, okay, wow, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that's what that meant to you," and and in some cases the intention was different, and maybe what a person would say to me is, that's not how I meant it at all. This is what I meant. And part of that is
yeah.
me saying, okay, I overreacted.
Well,
But,
it's
in some cases, I'm not overreacting at all. And it's up to me to say,
and I
that's not
wrote about
okay.
this like yesterday. How
Mm,
the misunderstanding where we have our own meanings and we just assume
yes.
everybody matches those
Yeah.
meanings. And when somebody does something that pisses us off, we assume it's that they because it means what we want it to mean. Because if we did
Right.
it, that's what it would mean.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's absolutely true. People ascribe motivations to other people that
Are their own.
they are their own. That's what it would mean if I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all kinds of relationships would
Wait a minute.
instantly
Does this
go.
mean that actually you are the manipulating one? That you're the conniving, domineering one? Because you attributed it to women?
Attributed what to
Please
women?
say yes. You ascribed all those motivations to us that,
No, no, no.
that
Which
must have been yours.
motivations? I'm confused.
I forget I'm just trying to catch you in a lie.
Ah, you're gonna have to be more specific. Which one?
Hmm.
Yeah, but I'm saying
Oh,
all kinds of relationships between of all kinds of natures would instantly go to like smooth, calm waters if people would just say, "Well, that's what it would mean if I did it,"
yeah.
and then
Or
say,
ask, hey, what did
and
you
then
mean
and
by
then
that?
and then go. That doesn't necessarily mean what they. Just because it means
Yeah.
that to me doesn't mean it. They meant that, and then you got to
You know,
find out.
I
God, we're
I knew
back
a
to
gentleman
curiosity
one.
again and awareness.
I knew I knew a gentleman one time who could not stand to hear me or see on in writing me call myself a bitch.
Oh,
Um, yeah, it really deeply bothered him. That was his father's top insult to his mother.
mm,
Um, and it was something that he never said to a woman. He would not refer to like the cattiest, like I can't think of another word other than bitchy, but like he would come up with so many other adjectives to avoid saying that she was bitchy or that she was a bitch.
wow,
Because that was a word he just wouldn't use, and it took a long time for him to understand that when I say, that I was being a bitch or whatever, that I don't ascribe any huge emotional weight to that.
yeah,
And that when my best friend calls me and says something, I'll say, bitch, what? Like that's
right,
just not a thing.
right.
Um, but it was deeply troubling to him. And it took a long time of me backing off on using that word, but not eliminating it. And him occasionally saying, why'd you say that? And me saying, because it doesn't mean the same thing to me that it does to you.
Right.
uh,
Yeah.
for us to come to a point where it was like, yeah, I respected his feelings and he respected mine, and we just worked it out. And neither one of
See?
us had to drastically change and be the only one who changed.
Yeah. Well, it's not
Yeah.
even. I mean, it's not changing as a person.
Right.
It's adapting your behaviors to accommodate another human being,
Yeah, I mean, can you believe
and
I
that's
have
nothing
fucking
wrong
friends
with
who
that.
don't like to hear me cuss all the goddamn time? So with them, I just don't
God,
fucking do it.
I wish you would fucking stop all the goddamn swearing. Jesus Christ, I'm tired of that shit.
It's really over the fucking top, isn't it? Do you know my heroine in my latest book? She's not gonna cuss.
How
She's
are
gonna
you going to
use
do that?
all is cookies. I have I have to remember. Well, so also I was a preschool teacher for a while. It's okay. I
Oh,
don't do it anymore. Y'all don't have to hide your children. But so I have experience with that, like slamming your finger in a drawer and going, fudge sickles.
mm-hmm.
So, and I remember my grandmother walking around and dropping a plate and being like, oh, fiddle. And
Right.
so
Well,
I'm just gonna,
and I grew up in a home that was a very strict
oh,
religion, and
yes.
and
Like, I'm surprised you got to dance.
it's not that bad. We did lots of dancing. Um, but for some reason, was I had this I you know a lot of my self was really crushed in growing up, but somehow
Yeah.
managed to hold on to just a shred of it. And when I was, I think, 9, I decided I want to start swearing. Did I ever tell you about that?
No.
Well, so here's the thing. So it's very much like your, preschool teacher. I could go outside by myself and practice swearing to get comfortable with it, but there was no way I was ever going to let one word of that pass my lips inside the house. To the point that
Yeah.
when I was about 12, one time I was in the kitchen and my dad was there and the cupboard door was open and my head came up and cracked right on the
Oh,
corner of the cabinet door, and I was dancing around and making all kinds of sounds, and after the pain went down a little bit, my dad goes, "Huh, I'm impressed." And I go, "What?" He goes, "You didn't swear or anything." And I was like, "That would have been okay."
right. And it's funny. I hate it when they change the rules out without telling you. And it's
Yeah.
funny. My dad was in the military, so
Oh,
I
Jesus.
not only right. you know, I know some very creative curse words and ways to use them, and even in a couple of languages. And but I was not allowed. I one time I remember I must have been like 14 or something. Um, Misspoke and meant to say smart aleck and accidentally called my brother a smart ass.
Oh.
And it was like, oh my God, what did you just do? And I one time was trying to tell my dad a story and he kept interrupting me jokingly. So we're joking. And I looked at him and said, shut up. And instant angry face.
For
You
saying
did not
shut up?
I wasn't
Oh,
even
yeah,
for saying shut up.
shut up was a very bad word when we were little.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, so I didn't really get to cuss a lot, but it was funny then when my kids were young, they really got into, I don't know, you've seen enough memes. You're probably aware at least slightly of Minecraft.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah,
okay, so
I have nerd friends.
okay. So my kids got into it huge, and there were a lot of YouTubers doing Minecraft videos, and one hilarious British group did them, and they swore a lot in the videos. And so I was watching them with the kids, and I totally saw the value in them, and there was swearing, and I was like, well. So we just said, okay, we're going to let you guys watch these, but we want you to understand if you swear around your grandparents, their heads are going to spin around, and we are not responsible for what happens to you. And so they were clear on the rules. And we went to the grandparents and we told them this is what's happening. We are allowing the children to do this. That you make the rules at your house. If you don't want them to swear, that's totally fine. We're not opening it up to them just cursing a blue streak, but
Right.
this is what they're interested in. And my mother-in-law, first of all, was the only one who had to deal with this experience, because yes, I think at the time 5-year-old was in the backyard, and his brother did something to him, and this little squeaky voice goes, "What the fuck, Calvin?" And my mother-in-law's head did spin around, and I believe she threatened to wash his mouth out with soap. And which she was like, "I've never done that ever," but like I didn't know what else to say. But it was hilarious that my son tried it at their house, because when I told my mother what we were doing, she said, "Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you told me, because if they had done it over here, I would have thought it was because of your father." And it was just one of those things where it was like, it was totally understood. My father could say the most foul-mouthed things, and would say them around us. Like, that is where, in a Christmas Story, where the kid lies and says he heard the word from his friend, but really heard it from his dad. That was totally my family.
I learned it from you.
I know. Yeah, I learned it by watching you. But yeah, like there was, I learned every bad word I know from my father, but no way was I allowed to say them around him.
Right.
Now I do. Now my brother and I, oh my gosh. I mean, he doesn't have kids. He has an excuse. I have none.
Well, you know what? We've been carrying on for a while now.
Yeah, like an hour. You may have to cut off the cursing part at the
end. Maybe. I don't know.
You're done really slow. I don't know. But, yes, you go do your editing. Fuck, that's a hard word. 2 weeks in a row. It gets harder the more you try to say it. Go cut this fucker up.
Yeah. Maybe. Hey, nobody had to pee during this one.
No, that's what I was doing, as well as chatting with my boss when you tried to call me the first time.
Oh, darn it. Somebody's got to pee during the podcast.
No, I was a lady. I did it beforehand.
Oh, right. You're a fucking lady. I forgot that.
That's right. It's up to you to be uncouth. Exactly.
I can do that.
Too much goddamn.
I did.
Oh, perfect. All right. Well, I will talk to you soon. Enjoy your evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.